All right, so if you're watching this video, it's because you missed week 2 coming back from second semester. I'm recording in a class right now, so you guys might hear them answer a couple of my questions. Thank you for watching our video. So we are going to go over medians of a triangle. Last week we learned about altitudes of a triangle. We learned about orthocenter. Where the altitudes meet, where they intersect, that's called the orthocenter. Today we're going to learn about medians, and we're going to learn about centroid. Centroid is not the same thing as orthocenter. Altitudes are not the same thing as medians. They're different. They are very similar, but they're different. So remember last week we learned about altitudes. They go from a vertex to the opposite side, and they create what type of lines? Class? Do you remember? Altitudes intersect with their opposite line to create a perpendicular line. They don't go necessarily through the middle or through the midpoint of the segment. Whereas a median goes through the midpoint. So if you look at that definition, a median of a triangle is the segment from the vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side of a triangle. So let's say we have the midpoint of AC, which you guys should have in your notes. So I'm going to find the midpoint of AC. The midpoint, if you don't remember, the midpoint is the x's added together divided by 2. The y's added together divided by 2. You're finding the average. So if I want to find the midpoint of AC, the midpoint, I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you guys see this color? Yes. The midpoint of AC is going to be 12 plus 0 divided by 2. And now I'm going to do my y's. 24 plus 0 divided by 2. 12 plus 0 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So my midpoint of AC is going to be 6, comma, 24 divided by 2 is 12. So my midpoint is 6, comma, 12. And we're going to label that letter H. So the midpoint of AC is going to be H, 6, comma, 12. And then the midpoint of CG, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to try to do this mentally. So we have the midpoint is 12 plus 36. 12 plus 36 is 48. 48 divided by 2 is 24. Hopefully I didn't lose you there. All I did was add 12 plus 36, and then I divided it by 2. 48 divided by 2 is 24. Okay, now I'm going to add my y coordinates. 24 plus 0 is 24. 24 divided by 2 is 12. Cool, I found my midpoint, E. Now my last midpoint, I'm going to add 36 plus 0 divided by 2. 36 divided by 2 is 18. And that letter is going to be letter N. I didn't choose the letters, the book chose the letters. So we have 18, and then 0 plus 0 divided by 2 is still 0. So I found all 3 midpoints. Now I'm going to create the medians. I'm going to connect their vertex to the opposite side through the median. Through the midpoint, I'm sorry. And that's how I'm going to create the median. So I'm going to connect A to E, G to H, and then C to N. This right here is not called the orthocenter because these are not altitudes. We created medians. And where all 3 medians intersect, this is called the centroid. Centroid. I'm going to pause, and then I'm going to write the next thing that I want you guys to do. Good. Sorry, I had to end the video abruptly because we were getting at that time limit. So as I was saying, to find the centroid, we could also use averages. So here I have 3 x coordinates and 3 y coordinates. I can find the averages of the x coordinates and the y coordinates, and it should get me my centroid. So we already found it algebraically, 16, 8. We're going to try this method and see if we get the same thing. 0 plus 12 plus 36 is 48. We have 3 x intercepts, so we divide by 3. This is going to be to find the centroid. And then we have 0 plus 24 plus 0, which is 24, divided by 3. 48 divided by 3, if you can't do that in your head, you can use a calculator. You'll find that that's 16. And then 24 divided by 3 is also 8. That is the easier way to find the centroid. All right, so if you guys are watching this video, I recorded part of it yesterday, and I'm going to conclude it today. So the last thing for me to teach you for this week, the second week back from winter break, which is also week 20, is the centroid measure theorem. Just a reminder that the centroid is where all 3 medians intersect. What's a median? A median is where a vertex is connected by a segment to the opposite side in the middle, at the midpoint. That's a median. So from the opposite midpoint to the vertex. So we have 3 medians. Where those 3 medians intersect, that's called a centroid. Where the altitudes intersect is the orthocenter. Altitudes are for orthocenter, medians are for centroid. So finding a centroid is a lot easier than finding an orthocenter, which we just reviewed in the video. You just add up the x coordinates divided by 3, add up the y coordinates divided by 3 because there's 3 points, and then you find the centroid. Now, if you're given information, like let's say you're given a picture of a triangle, and you're told that we know that the centroid is x, and we know that these are the midpoints. Let's label them x. Oops, I already have an x, so let's label them y, t, and r. Those are the midpoints, okay? Then you can easily figure out like what the measurements are of these segments because there's a relationship between the centroid. There's a relationship between the smaller segments within the medians. This is what I mean. So if you're writing this down, I would just like stop writing down, pay attention, pause, and then write it down. Give me a sec. Video for the millionth times millionth time, and hopefully it comes out and it's not glitchy. So let's say you're given bx is 6, let's say 6 centimeters. xy would be half of bx because x is a centroid. We know that the centroid measure theorem states that this segment would be twice the size of this smaller segment if it's a median. We know we could also say that the smaller segment is half of the bigger segment. The total segment would be both of them added together, which is 9. If we're given xt is 4.5 centimeters, then that means that ax would be double 4.5, which is 9. And then, sorry, people are talking in class and it's distracting me. Thank you. Now, if I were being asked the total of AT, I didn't write it here, but let's say AT would be 9 plus 4.5, which is 13.5 centimeters. Now let's look at CR. CR isn't given to us, CX isn't given to us, and XR are not given to us. So I'm going to give you that piece of information, and I'm going to have you guys work backwards. So if I have CR, and that's 12 centimeters, think of the centroid as dividing the median into thirds. So if you have a third here, then you have 2/3 here because it's double. So 12 divided by 3, because this is thirds, remember? This would be 4. And double 4 is 8. So this would have to be 8 centimeters. And then these two have to add to equal 12. If you're working from home, make sure you log into Edulastic through Google. We're no longer logging in through Clever. You guys had a Desmos due this week and an Edulastic due this week. The Desmos falls into the engagement part of your grade, which is 10% of your grade. Edulastic falls under that classwork 40% of your grade. So make sure you get that done. If you want the actual definition of the centroid measure theorem, it's in your book, and the blank is twice. Thank you. I hope to see you all soon.